Hi, I'm Gavin Syme.
And I'm Vivian Corrigan, and welcome to Perthshire Online TV. I feel a bit funny this week. There's something weird.
I know, I do as well, actually.
What is it?
It's the seat swap, isn't it?
I know.
Is it your good side?
No, is it yours?
I don't know, actually.
Do we have a good side?
Well, many may say that's not the case, but we try our best.
We do, oh, yes we do. So what's on this week?
Well, we've got Peter Wood in the studio from D&G Autocare this week, and interesting interview, because they've actually just gone through some challenges with using their name D&G Autocare versus a very well-known fashion label. Interesting situation.
Very interesting. And also in legal matters, we've got Alison McKean from McCash & Hunter, and she's in giving us the lowdown on the Perthshire property market. So that's really good, isn't it?
And how's that going at the moment?
Well,
anyway?
you know,
is it up or is it down? Or?
Yeah, well, we're coming into the time of year that people are thinking about moving. So, you know, she's going to let us know how things are and how things could be in the future. So we need to watch and see.
Good.
Yeah.
And
oh, yes.
Alan's doing his What's On?
Yes, Alan, he's interviewing lots of people with the What's On. He's got, let me just check, Doris Rigby from the Glenfarg Folk Club, so that was good.
And Doris has been involved in the Glenfarg Folk Club for many a year. Many a year. I think she's quite an institution.
Oh, lovely.
In that, yeah.
That's good. And also he chats to Peter Morrison from the band The Peat Bog Fairies, and they've been playing at the concert hall. Have you been to the concert hall?
You know something? I have been, actually. I've started going a bit more regularly these days. And it was interesting. I was there at a tourism conference about a week or so ago, and we picked up, there was a guy there from Walt Disney, and he did a whole spiel on the presentation on the Brave Pixar movie, which you referred to just recently.
Yeah.
Looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh, does it?
It really does. It looks fantastic.
I need to go and see it.
I know, I think we should actually. It's really, really, really good. It's got great Scottish theme and atmosphere to it, and I think I don't know, I think around the world it'll just take Scotland really back on the map again.
Good. Very good.
We've also got, I also had a conversation with an interview with Marek Stixon from the Perth and Carross social enterprise area, the local social economy partnership. And it was all really about social enterprise and business and their enterprise month, which was quite interesting because a social enterprise is quite a different business, business objectives, but quite a different business agenda.
Right.
Than the typical business. And we've got Stephen Leckie back in the studio as well. And Stephen, amongst many things, you know, he's Chief Exec of Crieff Hydro, but he's also the Chair of Crieff Community Council as well. So, as they say, it's on with this week's show. Businesses sometimes have many challenges, and there's lots of challenges when you actually deal with intellectual property and trademarks. I'm delighted today that we've got Pete Wood, who's Operations Director of D&G Autocare, in the studio. They've got something that they would like to share news-wise, because they had a few challenges over the past few months. Pete, welcome to Perthshire Online TV.
Hiya.
So tell us, first of all, a little bit about D&G Autocare. How big is the business and what does it do?
D&G Autocare has 9 garages throughout central Scotland and Perth, and they go from Livingston, Stirling. We've got 2 garages, Stirling, and the rest of them are based around about 5.
Great. So tell us what happened. You've had a wee bit of a few challenges over the past few months, because you've actually had a bit of a legal situation about your trademark with a very well-known fashion house, and you've been called D&G Autocare. I'm sure the viewers know probably who we're talking about at this point in time. Give us a bit of the background.
Well, we've been growing the business, and it's a good thing to have a nice identifiable logo, so we decided we'd like to trademark the logo and protect it so that you can't have anyone go out there just copying it and maybe benefiting from the business that we built up. So we applied to trademark, and of course that went through the process, and another company has the same type of logo, D&G, called Dolce & Gabbana, decided...
What do they do then?
Well, they're actually the fashion industry, and they decided that they would objected to us using our logo.
So they objected to you using a logo of D&G Autocare?
That's correct, yeah. Aye, that's what it was.
So when you went about doing that, what did you feel when you must have got a letter, a solicitor's letter or something from the official office that said that this business has objection to it? It must have kind of thrown you back a little bit.
Well, first of all, it was a bit fun actually. We were just amazed that something like a global company, and it is a global company, and everybody knows D&G as Dolce & Gabbana, not just D&G. Yeah. And they're all known for their fantastic fashion wear that they produce, but we were really taken aback with the fact that we are to deal with autocare, motor cars and vans, and they objected to the D&G. So two completely different companies in completely different areas, but so we're surprised at the objection. So
what was their objection then? What did they think was unfair?
They thought the D&G is the bit they contested, and quite rightly so. You have to have a look at these things, but on the balance of it, they are the fashion industry. Our David and George is the D&G and not Dolce & Gabbana, so maybe not quite as glamorous as Dolce & Gabbana, but very important to us to protect it. So we just said to them that we're in the motor industry and we're not interested in producing handbags and shoes.
And did they accept that right away? Or was
eventually, there was obviously the usual back and forth through the solicitors, but eventually they accepted that we could have that right and trademark our own logo.
So, but some restrictions around it, or
well, we can use the D&G Autocare logo in Great Britain, and that's as far as we want to go. And I can't see us becoming a world-renowned name and up against a company as big as Dolce & Gabbana.
Yeah, gee. So a little bit of a victory for the small business owner then, to some extent.
Definitely. It's definitely a victory for a small business, and especially it's an especially good thing for likes of a small business us and getting such press coverage, and it's been fantastic.
But from the other small business owners out there, do you think there's a lesson learned, or is there some advice that you would give, or because a lot of small businesses actually, if they got something like that, they would go, oh my goodness, and run away from it and actually start changing their own logo?
No, I think if you have a business and you want to protect that business and protect not only your reputation as a business but protect your employees as well, I think it's important that you should, if you feel the need to trademark it, just go for it and just do it. Yeah. Just get a proper trademark and get it registered. And
have some tenacity and stand firm.
Oh, definitely, stand firm, yeah.
So where's D&G Autocare going at this point in time? Big plans for 2012 now?
We're an expanding
You've taken on the Goliath.
We are expanding. That's we're going to continue with our expansion programme, and we're looking towards this year, we're looking to have a new garage opening up in Edinburgh at some point.
Great. Listen, Pete, thanks a lot for popping into the studio. Great storyline, and to be honest, congratulations on the tenacity and holding through on it all, because it gives all us small business owners a bit of courage as well.
Yes, thank you very much for having me along.
Okay, thanks, Pete.
Depending on which newspaper you read, or indeed the day on which you read it, opinions on the Scottish property market range from in dire straits to buoyant and flourishing. So I am delighted to be joined by Alison McKean, a solicitor with McCash and Hunter, who's going to put us in the picture about the local situation regarding Perthshire property. So welcome, Alison. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you, Vivian.
So you're dealing with this on a daily basis. So what is the situation regarding Perthshire property?
Well, as you see, statistics change month on month. I think we've got to look at the general economic climate, which is not perhaps as optimistic as we would all like it to be.
Yeah.
I think that sellers need to be fairly patient. I think that's the bottom line here.
Because people still want a quick sale,
Of course they do, and sometimes, more occasionally nowadays, unfortunately, people are fortunate. We did sell a property recently within a week, but I have to say that is the exception across the board. rather than the rule.
Yeah, I suppose if it's a really desirable property or a really good area.
Yes, indeed, that's right. And location, you know, the words location, location, still does... is still very important, I have to say. It might be helpful if I read out a little bit which was produced by the Perthshire Solicitors Property Centre, of which we and most other solicitors in the area are members, known as the PSPC for short. And this is what was said recently. Our message to those considering selling their home in 2012 is that their property will sell, but it might take a little longer than we, in fact, everyone would like. Sellers should be realistic about the price they are likely to achieve. We expect the local market to remain roughly the same, with no dramatic recovery, but likewise no dramatic downturn. People will always need to buy and sell, and there is a market out there, demonstrated by healthy footfall and inquiries within the PSPC and within the offices of the member firms, the solicitors' firms across Perth and Kinross. So it's, as I said, time to be patient, but cautiously optimistic.
It is optimistic. It's not doom and gloom.
No.
But it's being realistic as well, isn't that true?
Which is very important. I mean, I have to say, any reputable agent will do their very best for a client. There can be different marketing strategies. Some will suit some clients better than others. But I think that if people are honourable in advising, they will say we can't guarantee that we're going to sell your house within a certain period of time, nor normally can they guarantee that they will sell the house at a particular price. What tends to happen is that, as you'll know, selling on the open market now, there needs to be a home report prepared and available from the outset. And the home report often is prepared by a qualified surveyor and is available to the purchaser to see where there's genuine interest.
Do you think that's helped the property market or hindered?
That's a very controversial subject, and one which we could talk about for a long time. Very briefly, one of the issues there is that home reports were supposed to minimise expense so that several valuations weren't required, but we are finding that some lenders, notwithstanding that there is a home report, are still insisting on their own valuation. That can therefore be a difficulty. So sometimes people still find that the sellers are paying for a home report, but the purchaser also has still to pay for an independent valuation.
Not cheap, are they?
No, they're not. And so that's not great, I have to say, and doesn't please people, but there's nothing that we can do as solicitors about that. That's the banks or other lenders who are sometimes insisting on that, I'm afraid. I think people are a bit more used to the idea of home reports, but of course in a private sale, and we've just had an offer in today actually in the office for someone in a private sale, you do not require a home report in that situation, and the purchaser there would require still to instruct their own independent valuation. Getting back to the actual property market, you know, again, I can think of properties which have been quite high worth, which have sold within a reasonable period of time. But generally speaking, unfortunately, from the statistics, it appears that properties with asking prices of upwards of £300,000 are those where people need to think they're more in for the long haul.
Right, so they're taking a wee bit longer then.
I'm afraid so, and there are many reasons for that. The obvious one is the difficulty for people to sell their own homes in order to buy a more expensive home, the difficulty of getting mortgages, and so on and so forth. People are sitting tight more than they used to because of the difficulties which are involved.
Now, we said about being realistic, and it used to be the offers over, you know, people were looking for quite a considerable amount of money on the offers over.
Indeed, that's true.
But what is the situation now?
Well, unfortunately, it's not such an optimistic outlook with sale prices achieved. What we find, talking about the home report, say a home report was coming out at 240,000. I would think that most advisors, unless it was in a particularly good location, would advise on pitching it at offers over, say, 230,000.
Right.
Something like that. Maybe not. It depends on each individual circumstance, of course, and I can't generalise, but that would not be that unusual. The bad news is that purchasers are tending to go in at under the asking price now, because naturally they're aware of the difficulties in the market and they're coming in at under the asking price.
So it is a buyer's market,
so
really, isn't it?
It's still a buyer's market. Another thing that affects purchase prices is it's the domino effect, where if you haven't achieved, unfortunately, the price you hoped for in your own property, you've got less money to pay for your next property, and so it goes on. And you have a deck of cards or domino effect where that's concerned. I have some statistics here. Would you like to know about that?
Yeah,
all right. I've got to say it's the norm to market a property for between 6 months and a year. Some properties can take longer. But despite the poor property climate, the fact remains that 890 properties sold in 2011 within the Solicitors Property Centre. Now, I can only give you the statistics from there. Obviously, there are other perfectly reputable agents out there, but I'm quoting the PSPC figures. There are currently, as we speak, in the beginning of March, this is 930 properties available for sale through the PSPC. Recent figures released on 1st March have reported a welcome increase of 39% residential sales for the first 2 months of the year. But I'm sorry to say, buyers are still securing sales at about negative 3% of the asking price. Not the home report, but negative 3% of the asking price, which is really what I've been sort of saying.
Now, we hear a lot about first-time buyers and how it's a tough time for them.
Very difficult.
Why is that?
Well, I feel really sorry for younger people who are trying to get a foot on the property ladder. The main difficulty they have is saving up for the deposit, because the products out there, and I'm certainly not a financial advisor or mortgage advisor, but in general terms, 90% loan to value would be more normal, so they have to find the extra 10% from their own resources, or perhaps from, if they're fortunate in having mum and dad, and we may come on to speak to that about that if you wish, then from another source. But 90% is usually the most you would get. I believe from a reputable source who phoned me this morning, they said, well, there's about one product out there for first-time buyers at 95%. But I believe that the general terms and conditions are more restrictive for someone to secure that.
So you need a 10% deposit.
Normally, you need to save up your 10% deposit. I mean, I think it comes down to affordability. In other words, can you actually afford to repay your mortgage? And that's a really important question. Not much fun eating bread and jam for the rest of your life. So you've got to be able to repay the mortgage. You've got to have the deposit, and also normally you have to have a permanent job. There's so many people who are very glad to have fixed term contracts, but that's a difficulty for people trying to secure a mortgage. So the young ones who may have difficulties getting jobs, well, there are many people sadly in that situation. They might be glad to have a fixed term contract, but that's not going to help them with regard to securing a mortgage. The best advice I could give is to really consult a reputable independent mortgage advisor, because normally they have the whole of market. There are one or two banks who will not give loans to anybody other than their own customers who come through the door, but generally an independent mortgage advisor will be able to give you most of the whole of the market
and the market
get the best
changes
product.
And products change.
They do all the time.
You did mention the banks, and we did talk about the bank of mum and dad. Now, that used to be a bit of a joke.
It was,
but it's not a joke now, is it?
Not at all. We do find that if first-time buyers, or anyone in fact, it doesn't have to be a first-time buyer, is fortunate enough to have a parent or other relative who is willing to help them along the way and give them the deposit or a contribution towards the deposit, then that becomes a much more serious source of borrowing, if I could put it that way. Sometimes a parent or other relative may decide to make an outright gift, but obviously they would need to give that very serious consideration. The more usual route is for the mum and dad or other relative to make a loan of the deposit money to the child or family member, and we would normally advise that that is secured by way of what's really a second mortgage. In Scots law, it's a standard security, it's called. And so if you're borrowing from a bank or other lender, you sign a mortgage deed called a standard security in favour of that bank or lender, and that is set against your title deed, right? And they've got first, they get their money back first when the house is sold. But the mum and dad could take out what's called a postponed mortgage or postponed security, and so theirs ranks after the bank. So when the house is sold, if you have this standard security, the mum and dad should be guaranteed to get their £10,000 or £20,000 back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And also, everybody knows where they stand.
Yes, that's right. They do.
And there's no problems arising, especially, if there's several children involved and mum and dad are maybe helping a few out,
Yes, because if you have one child, for example, you may decide, well, they're getting a bit of their inheritance in advance. You could look at it that way if you're in the fortunate financial position to help them. On the other hand, you may not take that view. You may want to take a security. Have to say the one vulnerability is if the value of the house goes down and then there's negative equity, it's the mum and dad who would suffer from that because there might not be enough money to repay them. But that's looking at the worst scenario.
Worst
case scenario. It's very true what you say. If people have more than one child, 2, 3, 4 children, they normally want to be fair to each of their children, and that would be why it's not an insult to the child thinking they won't pay them back. The reason is to try and be fair to other family members.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Alison.
You're very
and
welcome.
It looks like the property market, we're not through the tough times yet, but we're getting there in Perthshire.
It's hang in there, yes, exactly.
Well,
that's
thank you so much for your informative advice, as always, and your opinion. And if you are thinking of buying or selling a property, then as always, please consult a reputable solicitor.
Fairways provide cost-effective HR support, from contracts to recruitment, health and safety to training. Fairways, working with you, for you. Visit fairways-uk.com or call Perth 632 561 for a free consultation.
I did it Fairways.
And welcome to this week's Perthshire Online TV News Round. Well, good news with regards to the Olympic Torch. The Olympic Torch will travel through Perthshire on the 12th and 13th of June. The flame will make its way through Meagle, Cooper Angus, through Perth and all the way to the Crook of Devon as part of the Olympic Torch Relay. An average of 115 torchbearers a day will carry the Olympic flame during its 8,000-mile journey around the UK before it arrives at the Olympic Stadium on the 27th of July 2012 for the lighting of the cauldron at the opening ceremony, signifying the official start of the London 2012 Olympic Games. So remember getting the 12th and 13th of June in your diary and you can see the flame as it travels through Perthshire. Anniversary banners have been installed in Tay Street. Tay Street now boasts a new attraction with a series of eye-catching banners installed in celebration of the Ganachie Trust's 75th anniversary. The Ganachie Trust was founded in 1937 by A.K. Bell, the well-known successful local businessman philanthropist who wanted to share the success of his distilling exploits with his community. Today it funds wide-ranging projects across Scotland with an emphasis on Perth and Kinross. 20 banners along the Tay Street around the concert hall highlighting the Trust's aim to inspire, improve, support and care, and give examples of some of the ways in which it has done this locally. And Perth Festival, the festival box office opens on Monday the 26th of March. You can find out everything that's going on at the festival on www.perthfestival.co.uk. Perth Festival of the Arts has hosted a number of big-name artists in recent years, and the 2012 festival programme is no exception. Big names at the 41st Festival include Nigel Kennedy, Jack Bruce, Jules Holland, Royal Hill Philharmonic Orchestra, Berlin Symphony Orchestra, and much, much more. On the charity front, there's a Rolling Back the Years disco on Friday the 30th of March at Grampian Hotel. You can contact Leanne Ward at Added Sparkle Events. There's also a charity launch of Live at the Loft on Friday the 30th of March, starting at 7:30 at the Loft Club, featuring the Rhythm Dogs Jazz Band. All profits will be donated to Chaz. The Black Dyke Band concert. Elton John once described the Black Dyke Band as the best brass band in the whole world, and the Perth Concert Hall audience can hear why this West Yorkshire brass band earns such praise when it performs on Saturday, March the 31st. Proceeds from the concert go to help local, national and international charities supported by Perth Canole Rotary Club. And a favourite of mine that's coming up, prize-winning crime author Alex Gray will be appearing at Scone Library as part of the celebrations to mark World Book Night on Monday the 23rd of April. Alex is the author of Glasgow Kiss, Pitch Black and many others, and we'll talk about her work and signed books. And dare I say, I really like her novels. She'll be good to meet. Other what's on? There's a business networking day at the races, Perth Races. The Chamber of Commerce organised this, and it's the Chamber of Commerce networking event on Wednesday the 25th of April. It starts at 12 noon and lasts till about 5 o'clock.
Now, the Scottish music scene, as we know, is alive and well here in Scotland, and there's events all over, and there's a very special one happening on the 13th, 14th and 15th of April, and it's the Glen Farg Folk Feast. And I've got Doris here, who's going to tell us all about it. Now, you've got an unusual second name, haven't you? What is it?
Rookvie.
Rookvie. Where does that come from, John?
That's a Flemish name.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Flemish weavers were brought to Scotland a century ago to teach the Scots how to make lace.
Now, you've been with music in Scotland all your life, haven't you?
I have.
And you attend many of the different festivals all over the place.
About 16 in the year.
About 16 a year. We'll be doing a show on all those in a bit, so make sure you'll look out for that show. But here we're specifically talking about the 34th Glenfarg Folk Feast.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, Chuck.
Well, it's a great weekend of ceilidhs and concerts, competitions and informal sing-arounds, all in the village of Glenfarg.
I mean, it's a fantastic event because, I mean, it's not expensive either, because for the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, if you want to attend everything, it's only £35.
That's right.
Where can you go for £35 for it and have entertainment all weekend?
Exactly.
But if you can't go for the whole weekend, also people can book for specific events that are going on.
They can book for the ceilidh or the concerts on the Saturday night and Sunday night.
And there is still some accommodation available in the village.
There is, yes.
But there's also an on-site camping place.
There is, it's the village park.
And people can go and camp there
They
as
can
well.
indeed, and it's free.
It's free, which is great. Now listen, the people that are attending that is the Poozies. That's a girl group, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Nothing like the Spice Girls then?
No.
Like the Tartan Girls are these. There's Mike Silver, Jim Malcolm. No, he's very popular here in Perth.
He is indeed, he's from Perth himself.
Yeah. Laurie Watson and Ruler 3.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got Shona Donaldson and Paul Anderson.
These are very fine fiddlers, and she sings to a wonderful singer.
The Orwell Ceilidh Band.
Oh yes, they're local as well.
Margaret Bennett. So you've got loads, and then the Farg Folk.
The Farg Folk is a group of the resident singers who sing all through the year and get together and put a set together for the folk feast.
Yeah, so this is an event obviously held here in Perth. They are all over the country, but the specific one has been going for 34 years. Have you been to every one?
I haven't. I've been to 32.
32?
Yes.
Oh, you slacker. I think what would be a really good idea, I've got the brochure here, we've both got it. If we just go through each day and just tell everybody exactly what's coming on. Now, on the Friday night, there's the Orwell Ceilidh Band. Can you tell us a little about when people arrive at 8 o'clock?
Well, that's in the village hall, and it's a mixture of dance and song. In between the dances, we ask several different people up to sing, and everybody sings along with that, and it gives them time to have a wee rest.
Now, what I think is incredible, from 10:30 on Saturday morning, right through to midnight, this thing's going on. If you start off, there's lots of workshops as well where people can come and join in. Like, for instance, you've got Jim Malcolm who's doing the Dagard guitar.
Dadgad guitar. It's a particular tuning that's pretty clever.
Is it?
And apparently it's an open tuning.
It's an open tuning, so anybody can go along to that. There's also the D Whistle with Neil Peterson.
Neil Patterson.
My glasses need changing.
He's this is his band that plays on the Friday, the Orwell Ceilidh Band.
Yeah.
He's a piper and a great whistle player.
Wow. Now at 11:30 there's a sing around.
That's right. Well, that's open to everyone. We just go around the room and everybody shares their songs, and we have wonderful choruses, of course.
Now you've also got various competitions. The original song competition, and it's from my understanding, people can put forward their new song, but the title of the song has to be "Always Look on the Bright Side," put their interpretation of it.
Has to be on that theme.
Yes. And then people come along and just do their theme of that.
And we have a local artist and songwriter who's going to judge that, Jim Douglas, who lives in the village, and he'll judge that. Wow. And the prize will be a felted picture designed by my daughter.
But she's a great felter, isn't she?
She is, yes, Aileen Clark. And she also, that same picture is being used for the front cover of the programme, which will be out next week.
Okay. Then the Saturday night, 8 o'clock to 11:15, you've got the Saturday concert. So what would people expect at that?
Well, first of all, they'll have the fag folk.
Yes.
And then they'll have the first of the artist, Jim Malcolm, and the Poozies are the headliner.
Oh, they're the headliner.
They are the headliner, yes.
I've never heard of them, but I'm desperately trying to come along to this event.
That would be
so
nice.
So maybe I'll get to see them there. But
yes.
I suppose a lot of people who are into the traditional Scottish music, they will know all the names that I'm talking about.
Yes, some people may not have heard them,
okay.
but they'll come along because they...
The music that's being played, is it all traditional, or do people put a modern...
No, it's not all traditional. Okay. A lot of the Poozies songs are self-penned or traditional. Jim Malcolm's the same. He would sing mostly his own, but he writes some marvellous songs. Well, and the fag folk ones can be either traditional or contemporary.
And I'm sure lots of you kind of know each other, and it's almost like a meeting up every year.
Well, it is. Yes, it's a bit of a family, really.
And I suppose
festival family. That's good.
I get a feeling also as well that if somebody's never been to one of these, they're very welcome to come, and I'm sure they'll be made very welcome.
Very, very welcome.
They'll soon make friends.
Yes, they will indeed.
That's great. Now on the Sunday, it starts at 10:30 with workshops, the basic PA setup.
Yes, that's the sound engineer who's doing the whole festival. He's teaching people a basic. It's a thing that many festival goers or folk club organisers, they need someone to do their PAs, so he's teaching them the basics.
So that's good. You've got another sing around at 11:30.
Yes.
And that's at the Glenfarg Hotel, Terrace Bar. You get all the best of it. We've also got children events on here at 1:45 with Margaret Bennett. What will she be doing?
She'll be singing and encouraging everyone to participate in songs and games and action songs particularly. Yeah.
Now, I'm very intrigued by the next one. At 3 o'clock till 4 p.m, you've got the World Puffer Box. I think you're going to have to explain this one.
Well, it's whoever can blow the inside of an empty matchbox the furthest, and it's amazing the distance. Yeah. People with a lot of puff.
Now, I believe that, is it Jim Malcolm's very competitive about this?
He is. He has won it, but he's a very competitive guy.
Now, do people get accused of cheating if they use a ventilator first, or an inhaler, or...
Well, I've never known anybody whether they do that now, there.
Actually, that's probably a good exercise for people with asthma and things like that, to puff on the box, and it'll help build the lungs up.
Well, maybe.
Perhaps we'll have to suggest that.
But there are prizes, children's prizes and adults' prizes.
Okay, and at 6:30 to 10 p.m, you've got the final fling. You've got Mike Silver on that, Laurie Watson and Rule of Three, and Shona Donaldson and Paul Anderson. So that's like the round-up to the whole event.
It is, and each of these acts are very different. Shona Donaldson was a previous Scots Singer of the Year, a wonderful singer and fiddler, and her husband is, to my mind, the best fiddle player in Scotland. They're from Tarland.
Yes. From Thailand? Tarland. Sorry, I said Thailand. Now, it sounds like a fantastic event, and also if people come along as well and they've not booked anything, there's lots of kind of impromptu events happening all over the place.
Lots of sessions, lots of opportunities, indoor and out, always good weather, and people can sing and play to their heart's delight.
Fantastic. They can come for an hour, or they can come for the whole weekend.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm just looking at the prices, because I mean, it's not expensive. £7 for the Cayley dance, £15 for the concert on the Saturday and the Sunday night. But if you want to go to every event, it's only £35. I mean, that's incredible.
It's bargain of the year, really. It
is bargain of the year. Now, people can pay people can also book by going onto the website, can't they? Which is www.glenfargfolkclub.com.
That's right. So or they can phone. They can phone 01337 831 403.
And that's Hugh Hoffman.
And myself. That's our. And if anyone wants accommodation, the same phone number.
So if they ring that number, I'll just repeat it to you so everybody gets it. 01337 831 403. Now listen, I'm hoping to come along to that, and I'll try and see if I can organise a a weekend, or maybe just an evening, because
Yes,
we'll
you're very
do
busy.
the best we can. But I'm sure if everybody wants to go to that, I'm sure you'll have a fantastic time. And I've already met a lot of the people that was at the event that we met at in Perth Concert
Trad
Hall.
Awards, yes.
And the thing is about traditional Scottish music, it's you can't help but feel happy after being at one.
That's true.
It just brings you out. So if you want an uplifting weekend, make sure you go to the 34th Glenfarg Folk Club, Feast, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks for coming on the show, Chuck.
Thank you.
Now, we're all excited here at Perthshire Online TV because coming to the Perth Concert Hall on the 23rd of March at 8 p.m, that's a Friday night, is the Peat Bog Fairies. Now, we first became aware of the Peat Bog Fairies a few months ago when we did interviews at the Trad Awards, the traditional Trad Awards that was held there. And one of the bands that really got the audience swinging that night was the Peat Bog Fairies. And I've got Peter Morrison here from the Peat Bog Fairies. How many times am I going to say Peat Bog Fairies tonight? I don't know. But I'm just making sure everybody knows who's coming. Now listen, I know your group is based on traditional Scottish music, but it's much more than that. It's a real high energy music session, really, and anybody who sits there can't just stop tapping their feet, etc., etc. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's based on traditional music, pipes, fiddle and whistle. But everything else round about it is what you'd expect, from a more contemporary band: bass, guitar, drums, everything else. But we're basically a dance band, for us, as you'd find in a club or whatever like that.
Yeah. So the good thing about the Perth Concert Hall as well, there is a standing room as well. But when they say standing room, I think that's going to be dancing room, don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, we occasionally do theatre gigs where to seated audience, and we'll alter our set that night for something like that. But generally, like what we'll be doing in the concert hall will be basically a dance night, although you can sit and watch if you want. But we're always the type of band that's put on last at a festival or last at things to get people jumping up and down. That's
and I think they will be that night.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yes, so Perth Concert Hall, have you played that venue before?
Yeah, quite a few times actually.
Yeah.
For
What's
one thing
it like
or
to
another.
actually play in?
It's great. It's a big it's a big lump of a place, but it's nice. The audience can get relatively close to you, which is quite good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a
and what's important as well, the acoustics, are they good there too?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a top class venue,
Yeah.
So
you enjoy playing there?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Well, we're glad to be having you back. Now listen, the music you play is traditional Scottish music, but with a more contemporary feel to it and all that kind of thing. So it's a kind of a bit hip hop and jazz and reggae and all sorts of different kind of musical themes brought into it. How would you describe it?
Probably similar to that. I mean, basically, myself and the fiddler, or the fiddlers, we come from a much more traditional background. When I'm back home in Skye, I play traditional sessions where it's, just fiddles, pipes, everything else. And you wouldn't have any electrics at these things I play at. But with the Peat Bogs, the rest of the guys all come from different walks of life, different types of bands that played in different genres of music. So it's basically a sort of melting pot of different styles. And
your music fits in more to a nightclub than it would to like a Caellias, for instance?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, we occasionally get asked to do weddings and things like that. Although we don't do them anymore because people will see us a traditional band and come and ask, would you do a wedding? But we're not that type of band, unfortunately. We don't do the set dances. We're more akin to what you'd find in a city nightclub, to be honest.
I think people are going to come out of your concert actually being uplifted and on a high, as it was.
I hope so.
As opposed to coming out feeling a bit miserable. Not exactly a Leonard Cohen concert.
No, it's not. No. No, I mean it's for to give people a good time. I mean, most of the people who will come to hear us have heard us before, and they've been brought by folk that are going on about us. So we do get a lot of folk saying, I've been brought by a friend and this is not what I was expecting, really enjoying themselves. So that's nice, when you get new folk.
Now once people have seen the concert I believe we've got one of your album here, and there's lots of different kind of music on there, and you're going to be playing us one out. Now I'm not even going to attempt to say this. How do you pronounce this one?
This is a Gaelic title, actually. It means River of Snakes, but it's called Avon and Naher.
I take your word for it. Now, River of Snakes, has that got a story with it, or you just inspirationally found the title?
No, River of Snakes is a place in Skye where our studio is. There's a wee river just beside our studio, and there's a book about the area that's probably about 100 years old by a woman called Otto Swire. And she wrote about how 100 years ago there was a terrible problem with snake bites. There's quite a high mortality rate amongst sheep, of all things. Lots of dogs would get bitten.
Would those be adders?
Adders, yeah. Okay. And even going to school, kids would occasionally get bitten because they'd run to school in their bare feet. Yeah. And quite a problem with bites. But the snakes luckily have gone there now. When we were recording Dust here, this album, we had just taken over the building and the water hadn't been turned on yet. So we had to go down to the river to get water for the toilet and for cleaning and for our tea and everything else. So we were sending Peter because he's the youngest. and he's got most time to recover, you know. Might kill the rest of us. A bit quicker, yeah. So that's where Avon and Naher comes from.
I'll tell you what, we'll just remind everybody about the concert and when it's on. Now, it's at Perth Concert Hall, and it's on Friday, the 23rd of March at 8 p.m. And don't forget, if you enjoy the concert, you can go to, is it iTunes and places like that? You can download this album?
Yeah, iTunes, Amazon.
iTunes, where's the platform?
Oh, they're all the same. Anybody's tunes.
Yeah, anybody's tunes.
So, yeah, iTunes, Amazon, all the usual places you can get
those.
Or the website, of course.
Listen, make sure you book your tickets early as well, because I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a sellout. So, in the meantime, if you're thinking, oh, I want to hear them now, well, you're going to hear one track off this album. You've already mentioned the name. And would you like to introduce it now, and we'll have a little listen at what you're all about?
Okay, here we go with Avon and Naher.
Yes.
Well, I'm delighted today to be joined by Marek Stitchin from the local social economy partnership. Marek, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little about the local social economy partnership here in Perth and Kinross. What's actually the aims to the organisation and what kind of support and what do you do?
Well, local social economy partnership was set up, I think, back in 2004, so it's been around for a few years. And the key partners in it are Perth Community Council, PCAVs, Perth College. We have representatives of social economy organisations, so we've got a social enterprise, we've got a charity on. So it's a wide-ranging sort of mix of partners basically working on the partnership. The aim predominantly is to encourage and inspire social enterprise in Perth and Kinross.
So let's take that terminology, social enterprise, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we've had some discussions on this before, that a number of people in a business community, community, hear the word social enterprise, and lots of people immediately think, oh, it's just a little community project, or by default people think it's a charitable organisation. Whereas a social enterprise actually isn't that, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's something entirely different. I mean, if you think about it, social enterprise, if you actually strip it down, the name itself, you've got two elements. You've got the social and you've got the enterprise. Now, the social is easy to grasp. And that's what people think about when they hear social enterprise. That's the social aims and objectives of the organisation.
Yep.
So it's the good that the organisation is doing. But it's the enterprise element that is the key to the existence of social enterprise. Because if the organisation is not delivering on the enterprise front, it will never succeed. It will cease to exist.
And when we use the word enterprise, we actually just mean business. So, so a social enterprise is first and foremost a business. But what it has, instead of some other businesses may have certain goals that they're going to expand into 50 countries and do A, B and C, that a social enterprise, a social business, is actually one that has some objectives to spend its profitability in more socially aware activity. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's a business with a social aim. That's one way of thinking about it. And as a business, it needs to be able to wash its face and stand on its own 2 feet. But as much as it has to deliver on its business aims and objectives, it needs to deliver those social aims as well. So like you said, if you're thinking forward in terms of planning and in terms of developing the enterprise, a private business will just focus on profitability and on the financial goals and so on creating economic wealth. That's also the purpose of social enterprise. But the added layer is that there's social aims and objectives that actually make a difference. It could be within the local community, it could be within a disadvantaged group, it could be environmental aims and objectives. Whatever it is, it's like another layer of aims and objectives.
And that's not that extra layer isn't something that Perth and Kinross Council or the local social economy partnership comes and drops down on the business. That's the business themselves that decides they've got these objectives.
Oh, absolutely, Gavin. It's something that needs to grow organically. It's you definitely have to believe in it to be doing it. In other words, it's a slightly different way of doing business. But it comes from the heart, I would believe.
I heard nice terminology recently because the whole terminology of social enterprise, it took a little bit of time for me to get my head around it a few months ago as well. I had a really nice quote from Mick Jackson, I think, at the New Biz conference recently. And he actually didn't use the word social enterprise, he actually used the terminology social entrepreneur, which I thought was quite interesting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's spot on in terms of the timbre and the kind of vibration that it brings with it. Perhaps it's an easier way for people to associate the whole movement and the whole concept with something more tangible, because particularly in the business world, people will easily recognize the word entrepreneur and they will easily relate to it. So talking about a social entrepreneur, it's a slightly different sort of angle, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting because primarily, if you think about who an entrepreneur is, Well, there's different ways of looking at it. If you looked it up in a dictionary, you'd probably find a definition saying somebody who operates a business using finance to create economic wealth, something along those lines. But if you think about the really exceptional entrepreneurs, the really ones that are outstanding, these are people who are innovators. These are people who make a difference by making things in a different way. And to me, an outstanding entrepreneur is an innovator, somebody who transforms innovations into economic goods, into economic wealth. And what better way than to do it via social enterprise?
Exactly. And, you know, interestingly, as a social enterprise, it's not by default, it is a business. There may be funding available to help set up a business, as there is with every business, but a social enterprise by default isn't completely funded. It's not that somebody decides, I'm going to set this up and then waits to be paid for doing the job.
No, absolutely not. Like in any form of entrepreneurial activity, there needs to be finance coming in. And it could be from private sources, it could be an individual basically putting their own money in it. There is funding available for startup or for development of particular projects, by all means. But as I said before, it really is a business. It's a business model. So it needs to stand on its own feet. It cannot rely on funding going forward. Funding is helpful to have, be it a loan from a bank or a fund or a grant or whatever.
As it is for any business.
Absolutely. However, that's not the premise that social enterprise should operate on. It should be going forward in a business-like manner.
Great. Talking about projects, I think in February you just completed Enterprising Month.
Yes.
Give us a little bit of a background, because it expanded a little bit this year, wasn't it? It was Enterprising Week, I think, 2011,
yes.
Enterprising Month 2012.
Yes. Yeah, we did the Enterprising Week in 2011 basically to try and pilot a few different events and workshops for people within the social economy sector to see how we can help them develop their skills. Now that grew, and this year in 2012 we expanded on the theme and created an Enterprising Month program of events. So that ran across February, running into the beginning of March.
And how did it go?
It went really well. I'm really glad. We had 8 events, 8 workshops, most of them fully subscribed or almost at full capacity. The feedback has been very good. We had very good trainers, and I'm really looking forward to doing it again in the future.
And it kicked off with Newbiz.
It kicked off at Newbiz with the Social Enterprise Workshop, where we invited Mick Jackson to provide input and discuss social enterprise from his perspective. He's such a high level, high key profile
social
speaker and
social entrepreneur.
That it was a great benefit, I think. But we took it forward, and social media actually featured quite heavily in the program this week. We had Facebook for beginners, we had Twitter for beginners, we had advanced social media training. So it is a new way of doing business and getting the message about yourself, your organisation out that attracts people's attention. And I'm really glad that we could help people develop skills in that area.
And it's something that you can watch and assist with moving forward. It's something that's then deployable within the social enterprise as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in that sense, it's, again, no different from any other organisation, be it in the private business community or just wherever, really, to be honest. Another really interesting workshop we had was ethical selling for social entrepreneurs and for charities and so on. Another really successful event. And as usual, we get feedback from participants, and the feedback has been very good, actually, I must
Excellent.
say. We've been really glad with it. But looking forward, the value of these events will be seen over the coming month when the organisations and the individuals who took part actually try and start implementing the ideas and start using the newfound skills in the day-to-day business activities. And that's where we see that they actually make a difference.
And that assists with some of the key performance indicators and things that you've got as an organisation as well. So tell us a little bit about Spacebank. I know you've recently launched Spacebank project. So
yes, I'm really excited about
give
it.
us some
Actually,
background.
this is a really, really interesting project. I think quite innovative and quite a unique way of looking at things. The whole idea of Spacebank and where it comes from, it came from a visit that I had to an event. It was a family event run at a local church in Perth. And I was in this big room with a fully kitted industrial kitchen there that I never knew existed at all. And I made some inquiries and I find out that it was actually very cheap to rent, but nobody was using it, nobody was renting it. And I started thinking, why was nobody using it? Why was nobody renting this fantastic facility? Well, nobody knew about it, to be honest with you. And I thought, how many other places like that are there in Perth and Ross that could be utilised and bring income to the organisation? And I started tailoring that to social economy organisations and thinking about all those social enterprises, charities, community groups and associations, voluntary groups and so on that have resources. It doesn't have to be space. It could be a workshop or a hall, but it could also be a set of tools. It could be a projector. It could be anything.
This
really.
resource in the widest
In the widest
terminology.
possible sense. So what we're trying to do with Spacebank is to provide a platform for these organisations to market these resources to the wider community within Perth and Ross. So if you are looking for either some space, maybe a desk to work from once a week, or maybe you're looking for some kind of a tool or some kind of another resource, then you will have a platform now where you can source it from organizations that are in Perth and Ross, that are local, that have social aims and objectives, that are making a difference in the local communities, and you can feel good about renting from them because you're basically improving their business capabilities and providing a useful income.
And you're finding resource that you need to use as well.
Exactly.
And
absolutely.
that doesn't need to be the third sector business or organisation that wants to use that resource.
No,
that can be any person or any other business.
Yes. We've opened Spacebank to anybody. So if it's anybody within the community of Perth and Ross, it could be a business, could be an individual. If you're looking for a resource, you don't necessarily have to buy it now. You can go on Spacebank and see if you can actually rent it.
Great. Marek, thanks for popping in today, and thanks for clearing up some of the, I suppose, the myths there around social enterprise and some of the, sometimes the misunderstanding that there is with terminology. So hope Spacebank continues to go well, and,
thank you very much.
Please pop back in during the course of the next few months and let us know.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Marek. I'm joined today by Stephen Leckie. Stephen is the chairman of the Crieff Community Council. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please give us a little background. What is Crieff Community Council actually all about, and what does it actually focus on and do for the Crieff community and population?
Right, well, in Perthshire there are 50 odd community councils, and in Crieff itself, not Maderty, not Comrie, but Crieff, not Newth even, in Crieff. So in the local paper last August, the front page, if you don't sign up to Crieff Community Council as a director of it to get involved, then it will fold and default back to Perthshire.
Right.
That's not good enough. Get involved. You've lived in Crieff for 18 years, Stephen. All your life you've lived in Crieff. You will live the rest of your life in Crieff. Get involved, because otherwise it defaults back. That's no good. So I got involved, and that was just a few months ago now.
So what does a community council actually do as an organisation then? Is it there does it look after the interests of the business and the residents and just the general community, or is there specific objectives and agenda that a community council has?
Well, there's all of that, Gavin, and it becomes quite complex, but fundamentally it's about the passion of people that want to live in Crieff and how do we make Crieff a better place to live. So it's about dog poo on the pavements, it's about street lighting and salt and roads and bins and traffic lights and parks and roads and access and drains and unblocking and making sure things are good in Crieff, making sure we continue to be proud of Crieff.
And what do you see from a community perspective? Are there some key challenges in Crieff at this point in time that you see, either from a business or a resident's perspective?
Yes, dilapidated buildings, the hotels, sadly in Crieff town centre, the high street of Crieff, a big thoroughfare for between Perth and Oban. So it's the dilapidated buildings, making sure somehow, how do we get these buildings looking better? We can't buy them, we have no money in Crieff Community Council, our budget is a few £100 a year, not a lot. So our job, it's just fed through passion, is how do we get Crieff to be a better place? So looking at dilapidated buildings, right, who owns them? How can we speak to them? Can we get them to improve things? So that's an example of what sort of thing
of course.
The council does.
And if you looked at Crieff from an event perspective, what drives the tourist to Crieff, or the visitor to Crieff at this point in time?
Well, one of the biggest things that's happened in Crieff in the last few years has been the local market. 18 or 20 markets a year, now fully booked. 45 odd stall holders come along on a Saturday morning, set themselves up and trade their wares, and that's good for Crieff. And how exciting is that to have something like that going on in Perthshire and in Crieff? And we know people travel from around about the country to come and visit this because there's a bit of a phenomenon going on. So that's one good example of just what something like Crieff Community Council can do for its area. And there's 15 different bodies in Crieff. The local bowling clubs, the rugby club, there's various other associations that go on in Crieff, and so it's about getting all these guys together so we're all singing from the same sheet, we all know what each other's doing and acting in the same best interests of Crieff.
So if there was a call to action for your neighbours in Crieff at this point in time, what would you ask of them with regards to Crieff Community Council? How can they best support the organisation?
Well, communicate with us, come along to the meetings. They're held the first Monday of every month in the Crieff Community Campus at 7:30, and they're public meetings, anyone can come along. The first meeting I went along to, those 6 folk came along, and now there's 20 or 30 come along, and that's good. And in some ways it's sad because you tend to come along with gripes about problems in the area, but in fact that's just the point of Crieff Community Council. It can't be particularly strategic, it has to just react to what the problem of this week, this month is. So it's dog poo and paths and rights of way being blocked and parkways, and how do we improve just the general persona of Crieff.
Great. Well, all the best, Stephen. I know it's a recent, as you said, it was a recent move into the chairmanship for you. All the best to the community council, and we hope that you'll pop back down to the studio in a few months' time and perhaps give us an update.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for watching again this week, and thank you for your support as well, because there's lots of effort going in from Perthshire Online TV and lots of many of the local businesses actually to create an internet TV channel. So thank you for your support. We've got lots of opportunities for businesses that wish to promote themselves on the channel, and we're also looking for your news and views as well as to what's happening here, there in Perthshire. So please contact us on the email address, Facebook or Twitter. You know where to find us now.
Can I get my seat back next week?
No. No. Now I know why you've been hogging this one for so long. It's far too comfy.
See you next week.